Okay, welcome back everyone to our second lecture on BC310 Church and Ministry Administration. So you can continue with your question. You're saying, suppose there's an employee who was not doing well, so we gave a warning, and then they improved, they started doing well, but then again after a few months, their performance goes down again. So maybe there was a temporary improvement. They worked hard, but then they went back. Then we will still have the conversation, and we will just say, so we're not looking for just a temporary change. We genuinely need them to improve in what they're doing. Right? So if at any point, if their performance goes down, we will definitely have a conversation, and we'll do the same thing. We'll record it or in an email or something. Just put it down in an email saying, look, this is happening, and we're giving you so much time. What I did not mention is, depending on the area of work, especially if it's IT or if it's media, we would give them an assessment. It's okay. See, your performance is not so good. So I'm going to give you a test at the end of 2 months, 1 month or 2 months, whatever that is, and you're going to be tested in these areas. I think some of the mistakes that I made in relation to this is, the interview process, which I shared with you maybe a few weeks back, where we tried to interview them well. The mistakes I made in the past was sometimes I went based on recommendation. So one of our staff recommended somebody else. Oh, this person, I know him. He has so many years of experience, so on and so forth. So at that time, I did not do any tests, especially for IT. I went based on their recommendation, because so-and-so is recommending. So, okay, I thought they know well. And so we went ahead. I just had a conversation with them, looked at their resume, it looks good. And they're coming with a recommendation of so-and-so. And then based on that, we offered the job. And then after that, later on, that's when we discovered certain shortcomings. Or sometimes, so that's the mistake I made in the past. Then I realized, I should have given them a test to actually evaluate. I should not have gone just based on the recommendation of one of our staff, right? I should have actually evaluated it myself before we made the job offer. But now it's too late, because I've already given the offer and they're already joined. So then that's a very difficult situation, because then I've had to talk to this person and say, look, I was expecting you to know all these things, but it's not there. And so in some cases we have to terminate. The other mistake I made was to go purely by resume, especially when they come from very well, I'm talking about especially in IT or media, especially when they come from very well-known organizations, So somebody's come with a resume, the resume says they have worked with this MNC. Then I thought, okay, why should I interview them? They've worked, more than 2 years, 2.5 years in such a big company, a global company. And obviously, I think I asked them about their work. They were able to explain what they did. So I thought, based on that, everything was good. But that was a mistake I made, that I did not actually give them a practical test. So these were two kinds of mistakes I made in the past, where we made a job offer based on somebody's recommendation, or simply based on their resume, that they're coming from a company where they've done all this. And then I find out that actually they don't have the skills, or they're not able to do the work we wanted them to do. So then it becomes a problem. In both these cases, I would tell them, look, I'm going to give you a test. And I'm going to give you this time. If you do well in the test, fine. If you don't do well, then it's a fair way of assessing them. I should have done the test before the job, but now at least I'm giving them an opportunity to prove themselves that they do have the skills which they were hired for. And in both cases in the past, we had to terminate, and that was it. So those are difficult lessons, but we learn from those lessons. The next time, okay, I had better give them a practical test and not repeat those mistakes. Yeah. All right, let's just go forward. We'll finish this lesson number 7. We're on the last page. So employee, so this is page 26, last page. Some more things here as far as church staff are concerned. Employee development. So how can we ensure that people are always learning? So that's one very important thing, especially in the world we live in. Everything around us is changing. The world is growing, right? Things in every area, things are not remaining the way they were maybe even 5 months ago, 6 months ago. Things are changing so fast. So we have to keep on learning. We can't stop learning. How do you ensure that? One is on the job. So in the workplace itself, we're giving them tasks that are going to keep stretching them. So they're learning on the job. They're doing the work, but at the same time they're learning. So they themselves are constantly growing because the role itself, the work itself is expecting them to keep learning and growing. Right? It's not like, oh, I learned this 5 years ago, I'll keep doing it. What you learned 5 years ago was good 5 years ago, but today so much has changed. So we have to keep on learning. We encourage people to, do online learning through videos, courses. Like I said, we do provide a compensation of up to 10,000 rupees per person per year. They can use it for anything they want to learn related to their work. They can do a course online and so on and use that money towards the course. So some people have done that. And Bible college courses, so again, here we allow our staff to take at least 2 courses a semester if they want, right, as part of their work hours. And then some of our staff are actually studying full-time. And then, we as part of when we brought them on, that was part of our agreement with them. Weekend schools also continuous learning. Within the organization, we try to give people new projects, new opportunities, increase responsibility, new roles. All these ways we're trying to push people to learn, right? Do new things. Yeah? So when we give people their job offer letter, there will always be one line, or even in every role description, there'll be one line, which is an open-ended thing. Like, add any other thing that you're asked to do as the ministry grows, because we don't know, right? So, for example, I tell you, Gabriela, who's one of our counselors, she joined us about a year ago, I think, almost a year ago. She's a psychologist, done a master's in psychology, and she joined us as one of our counselors. So initially, their role was, yeah, you're a counselor, you'll have meetings and all that. And at that time, I knew we wanted to write content for our counseling website. So that was already in the role description, that you'll also be writing articles for the website. It was there. But there was also this line that, look, anything else that happens, your role will be described based on that. So after she joined us and so on, one day, I had the thought, why can't we do these short videos where for maybe 1 minute, something on Christian psychology, putting it all together, things that will help with the mind. Why don't we do that on social media? Now that was not part of her. It wasn't there in a role description. We hadn't even thought of it at that time. But I shared the idea with Gabriel, can you do this? And our media team will help you, of course. They will do all the editing, video editing. But you have to develop the content. You have to deliver the content. Can you do it? She was ready to do it. Right? So it's a growth opportunity for her. It was not in the role description. It wasn't even thought of at that time. It's something brand new, but it's an opportunity for her to grow. And at the same time, it's an opportunity for us to grow the ministry, grow what Chrysalis Counseling will do, right? So there will be always these new things. And then also doing workshops in schools and colleges. We had done that in the past. It was mentioned as part of her role, but for her to actually develop content to go and do it is again a stretching thing, but it's helping her grow, it's helping us grow, so like that for almost all roles there will be new things that come up, and then we go to the person, can you do this, stretch, keep growing. So that's how every individual keeps growing within their role, right? Nobody stays the same. So performance reviews, like I said, one happens every year towards the end of the year. That's the main one. That's usually in November, December. And then in June will be a very short one, quick review of things. And then from time to time, we will always have conversations through the course of the year, giving feedback on the work, looking at areas for improvement, so on. Dealing with difficult situations. So there will be difficult situations that come up with staff. It doesn't always have to do with work related. In the sense performance related, but it could be something else. And like we said, we follow this 3 strikes approach. That means 2 warnings. It happens a 3rd time, then we have to take some action, whatever that would be. There will be situations that result in immediate termination. So especially things that have to do with conduct, things that have to do with integrity, things that have, if something like that happens, usually there's immediate termination, right? Now, in those cases, we don't take these 3 strikes approach and all that. It's like, hey, it's done, depending on the seriousness of the situation. Because in our staff guidelines, it's very clear. There's a code of conduct that is part of our staff guidelines, and we tell them if anything goes wrong, anything is wrong, especially in conduct, it will result in immediate termination. So if anybody misuses church money, right? There's no like, okay, I'll give you 2 more chances to misuse church money. It's not like that. It's happened once. You're not supposed to do it. Finished. Sorry, because in this environment, that kind of a thing will not be tolerated, right? Or if somebody is, let's say, if they treat someone else in the congregation in any way that's not right, just depending on the seriousness of it. If it was happened by mistake, okay, fine. But it was knowing, intentional, and was done that way, then it usually will result in a termination, because you're not supposed to misbehave with anybody in the congregation, so on. So these kinds of things, there are difficult situations which will result in immediate termination. Exit interview is usually when people are leaving. We try to get feedback. Depending on the situation, how they're leaving, we try to get feedback. If they can give us feedback on things that we could improve on, so we would ask. Last couple of things is, one is also remember, for any organization, there are government laws that have to be followed, right? And so it is the organization that must make sure that those rules are followed. Example, one is every staff must have a PF account. That means that is their pension, their retirement account. So if you're an organization, and I forget the actual number, but I think it's like if you have more than 10 staff or some number, there's a fixed number there. If you have more than that many people, you have to open PF accounts for all your staff, and you have to contribute towards their retirement, right? Now, even some corporate organizations don't obey this, but it's dangerous because you are depriving that employee of money that can go towards their retirement. So you have to follow government rules, right? You have to contribute towards that. So it's part of being an organization in this country. Other labor laws would be the, like certain leaves, like maternity leave, paternity leave. I think we have only maternity leave. There's a certain number of days you have to give for that. And work hours, things that are mandated by government, you have to follow. And most recently, like we've had, what is that called? The POSH, prevention of sexual harassment. That also has to be strictly followed. Even though we are a Christian organization, we are registered with the government, you have to follow that, right? So every year you have to do POSH training for all your staff. So for us as a church, it becomes a little more tricky because the church has staff, also has volunteers, and also has congregation. And because we are an organization, everybody comes under that. We can't say, oh, they are volunteers. No, but they are serving in the organization. So they're also affected by POSH, meaning if there's anything that's going wrong, we have to report. And even in the congregation, you say, well, their congregation, they're not like part of the thing. No, but they're coming under the organization. They're part of the organization's activities. So again, you have to, if anything happens with the congregation, you have to report. So we're still also trying to understand all those rules, but these are laws by the government, which the organization must follow. Right? Try to understand it, follow the rules. Lastly, some questions that students used to have asked in the past. What can we do to help people grow within the organization? So I've mentioned some of the opportunities we give, mentoring, to help people, grow within the organization. And this is a tough question. How do we separate the personal life of the church staff and their work at church? This is a tough question because almost all our staff are also part of the congregation. So work at church just blends in with what they do as a person in the congregation. It all just flows together. And sometimes it's very difficult to separate the two. Oh, this is work. And now I'm a church staff. Now I'm a congregation member. And, to separate that. And even for me, as a pastor, I have to think, okay, now I'm speaking as a pastor. Now I'm speaking as like I'm your boss or you're the person that you're working with in the office, right? And when church staff come to speak to me, I have to say, okay, now we're talking as staff about work. Now I'm talking to you as a pastor, and you are a member of the congregation. So that is quite a challenge, because it all overlaps. It's the same person, right? And many times what's happening at home may be affecting their work. So as a work, I'm looking at it as office relation. But work, I have to look at it as a pastor. Okay, how can we help solve your problem at work and so on? And, so we have to look at both. So that can be a challenge. And even for the person who's working, how do you take this work as a regular 8 hours work? And then your family, you know that there's a separation here. There used to be a time, and not happens now, but where the wife will call, please come home. He's not gone to the garden or picnic. He's gone to the office to work. And then you have to respect that. So wife used to simply call, like, you come home now. but no, so she had to understand that he's actually gone to work. Yes, it is church, but church is also an organization. There is also a responsibility of being at work. You can't just call and say, oh, you come home now, it's okay, this, that, So that, from the family side, there had to be a change and understanding this dynamic. So those things we have to, separate out. And we had to work through. And how do we pastor church staff? Yeah, so that means, so this is also a challenge, because at work, we are looking always at their work. And at the same time, we think about their spiritual growth, and we don't want to mix the two in the sense, hey, now I'm evaluating you, I'm speaking to you about your work. But I do care about your spiritual well-being. But we need to take time out separately to talk about how you're doing spiritually. So it is a challenge because all of this overlaps. And when you talk about work, talk about spiritual life, talk about spiritual life. And we need to take time out separately for those matters. So, I think just to make clear, okay, what are we going to talk about? Now we'll do that. Okay. Questions? Before we go to the next lesson.
When it comes to exit interviews, let's take two scenarios. In one scenario, for the goodwill for somebody's relocating and he's moving forward, and both the scenarios are happy scenario where the person who's leaving is happy because he's relocating, and you all are happy that he's going forward for his thing. And then exit interview is more transparent and very truthful and a nice scenario. In a scenario where someone has actually had a bad experience, it could be either side, not only the employee, even the church. When the church is firing XYZ, still we would hold an exit interview, and if so, will that help?
If it is a dismissal, right, like especially from our side, we usually would not do an exit interview because our evaluation has already happened, and we feel that they have not performed well. We have done all our best, and all of this is already documented. So we would just say, okay, you have 30 days notice, and we try to make that as comfortable as possible. So usually what happens when we are dismissing is, it's okay, we have to give you 30 days notice, and in the last 30 days, no need to come to work. So that means it's like, unless there is actually a lot of work to do. But anyway, if they're not performing, then we're not going to expect a lot. So we just say, okay, no need to come. So we give them that 30 days off from work. So they're able to kind of very gracefully leave and transition. They can use that time to look for another job, all that, those kinds of things. If they themselves are leaving on their own, then that means they've decided, they've informed us they're leaving. And let's say it's not for better opportunities, they're just upset with us, whatever. Then depending on what's happening, either they will work for the remaining 30 days, help with the transition, or if the situation is really bad, then we will say, okay, better not to have somebody come in who's got a bad attitude, because we don't want that to spread to the rest of the organization, right? So there again, we will say, please, next 30 days you stay home, because it's better they stay home than come here and then complain to everybody, whatever the complaint is. Definitely from our side, we will look at things, So especially when it happens like this, where somebody has had a bad experience, then we will definitely try to look at, did we really do something wrong, Or now, remember that sometimes the complaints could be purely their perspective, right? Okay, they wanted this, and this, but we are a small organization. We could not offer what a big organization would offer. And so they were upset with us, but there's nothing we can do about it because we are a small organization, and they knew that before coming. Our resources are only so much. We have only so many people. This is what we're able to do. They knew all that, but the expectation was something from a big organization. So they were very disappointed, understandably, but we can't change. We can't help that because this is what we are now, and this is all we have. So in that case, what we do is we understand their complaint, we understand the reason for their feelings, but we can't address it. Yeah. So, but we will take every feedback that is given. We'll see what can be done, and we will. Yeah.
During your exit interviews, it's a very rarest of rare scenario that you would try to retain somebody. For assuming if there was a false conception or a false notion that person wants to exit, it's very rare that you would try to retain at the time of exit.
So, especially if somebody's had this kind of a wrong idea about APC, we would not try to convince them otherwise, because they've already made that judgment, and it'll be better for them and for us for them to work somewhere else, than for us to try to convince them and to stay. And because at the same time, it's not only about having somebody work, we're also looking at the culture of our workplace. We want to protect the culture of the workplace, keep it healthy, and everybody should feel positive about working with each other. So even if there's one, see, what I noticed was, and I shouldn't say notice, but this is a fact. Even if there's one person who has a negative attitude, it'll start spreading. That person will go and talk to another person. Hey, like this. Maybe that person was enjoying the work, but the moment this person started talking to that person, saying, hey, look at this problem, then after 5 times, they also started complaining. So we don't want that to spread, right? So it's better for them to exit. And yeah.
As compared to a corporate setting and as compared to a church setting, will we as a church always have a little soft corner compared to a corporate circle?
I think so. We will try to be as compassionate as possible. We will try to be as understanding. Especially, for example, people question me because there are instances where I have rehired people whom I have terminated. So they say, why did you terminated him? Then again, you took him back. Why you did that? So this is, a lot of it is on compassionate grounds, right? Where, yes, at that time we did terminate. Okay, maybe they have improved after 1 year or whatever that period was. Let's give them another chance, right? Or let me tailor the role to their strengths and take them back, right? Maybe at that time, I was asking them to do something beyond what they could, but they just can't do it. So and we need somebody in a smaller capacity, which I know they can do. So I will redefine their role and take them back in that new role, which will be much lower than what they used to do, and which is confined to their strengths. So put them back in there. So we've done that, Or example, sometimes somebody left because their intent was to go abroad and all that. So we encourage, support it, but that going abroad didn't work out. We took them back. So you come back, fine. I mean, you wanted to go, we supported you. It didn't work out. Okay, fine, come back, join us. And they're happily working with us only. So those kinds of things do happen. But that's all on compassionate grounds. We know the person, they're doing good work. I think. Biju has a question. How is orientation being done and knowledge transfer? Someone is leaving. Yeah. So when before somebody, let's talk about the knowledge transfer. Before somebody leaves, that knowledge will be passed on to somebody who's already in the company, and where in most cases it's also documented. So we tell them, write down everything what you've been doing, put it in a document, things that somebody else needs to know. And a lot of it may have already been done while during their working. Whenever possible, there will be an overlap between the time somebody is leaving and somebody is coming in. And then, so that ensures knowledge transfer before the new person comes and takes over. The older person, the person going out, hands over the knowledge. And that will become part of that whole orientation process. So orientation, we take them through the HR part of it, then the administrative part, orientation is done, and then the team part, which is for the team that they're going to be working in. So there are 3 stages: the HR, the admin, and then the team, which is their own team. The team will take care of it. People in the team will basically train them up, spend time with them in the orientation process. Yeah. Any questions? Okay. All right. So our next lesson is on volunteer management. We will start this next week. All right. So after church staff, our biggest, I would say, a bigger group is the volunteers. So if you look at APC, we have about 30 church staff, about 30 consultants. That's about 60 people. And then there are about approximately 250 to 300 volunteers. Okay? So volunteers is a big part of what's happening in the ministry. It's actually being done by the volunteers. And how we all work together, how we all do things together is so important. We'll talk about that starting next week. Okay. There are no more questions. We will pause for today. You have a question?
Pastor, like I saw some churches, pastor is good. He's leading church very well. But the people who are working there, their behavior and their talking and like speaking with people, so many things. So it never get to the pastor because people are there in some responsibilities, and like I don't know, I'm not able to explain. So this situation I saw in so many areas.
So what we should do is we should give. So I understand what he's saying. So there is a pastor. He has a team. There could be people in the team who are not really conducting themselves properly, being harsh to the congregation, being harsh to the volunteers, all that. So what we need to do is we need to give opportunity for the congregation to give feedback, right? So that's what we do. At least we've kept the channels open. So for example, we have an email ID called feedback@apcwo.org. Anybody can send an email about anything. And from time to time, we do get emails, so about anything. So recently, one email came about children's church. One email came about, somebody was not very happy because now we're having other people pray, in Central, with 8 o'clock service, 10:30. Before I used to stand and pray, but now we've brought in others, and one email was about that. So whatever, we're keeping the channels open. Sometimes there have been some serious complaints from the congregation about misbehavior about our staff. When those complaints come, we will take action. So there is opportunity. And then we also have what is called as an incident report on our website. So we have 2 channels. One is the email ID called feedback. So obviously, if somebody sends an email, we will know who sent the email because their email ID, so we can follow up, call them. But if somebody wants to be completely anonymous, they don't want to reveal their identity, they can go to our church website, go to the incident report page, and they can submit a report. We won't know who sent it. So it'll be completely secret. but they can give us feedback. And so we've received some feedback through that also. But those are like real serious complaints. So general complaints usually come, concerns come to feedback at from anybody in the congregation. Anybody can write, and they do write about anything. Yeah. And then the serious ones come through the incident report. That goes directly to our trustees. So that's like a serious matter. So what, at least at APC, what we've done is we've given opportunity for people to give feedback, to raise any concern. Now it's up to them to do it. So as and when different people, maybe anybody, anything happen, there's an opportunity to give feedback, and then we can take action. But if they don't give feedback, then, we may or may not know. Sometimes we will get to know because somebody else will come and tell us. We'll get to know. Sometimes we may not know, and unless somebody gives feedback. Okay. Thank you, everyone. We'll stop here. We'll pick this up next week. We'll move to our next lesson on volunteers. Okay. Thank you.